I'm here with Katrina, again, of On the Way to Wellness.
Hello.
Her blog. And with this series, the Soul Explorer Spotlight, this is the first of that series, but I'm hoping to share people's stories. One of the reasons why I invited Katrina to join me today is because I was just sharing with her earlier in my own soul journey and hers, her presence, and in us sharing each other's stories has kind of helped me feel better. Helped me feel more, I don't even want to say sane, because yeah, some of the stuff that we think about might still be crazy, but it helps me feel better because I know I'm not alone.
Right.
So having somebody to bounce ideas off of and bounce questions off of has been really empowering for me. So even though I might not have all the answers, and even if she doesn't have all the answers, us kind of just walking each other along that path is empowering, and it helps empower me to not feel like I have to hide these feelings or yeah, you too, Joyce.
Yeah.
So it helps me feel or it helps encourage me to keep going on along on my journey. So I wanted to speak with her today because I think over the years we've kind of experimented with a lot of things, and we, even though we're not like super close where we talk to each other every day or anything, but just, you know, sending text messages every once in a while and kind of updating each other, like, oh, I'm trying this new thing, can I try it on you? Or, you know, even just, hey, I read this thing, you know, it really spoke to me, and then just sharing those epiphanies really helps. Yeah, and it gives me insight, and so it helps shed light on my own journey as she's processing her own. So I just wanted to talk to Katrina today because, again, as Holding Space has evolved, she's kind of been with me through all the different things that I've offered, all the different things I've played with. And again, like I said, you know, sharing all these different ideas, she's kind of bounced off her thoughts and ideas, so it's kind of like grown, you know, so it builds on the stuff that I'm thinking about, and hopefully the stuff that I shared with her. I don't know if it's helped build her understanding too. So I just wanted to, I asked her to come on today because a couple of days ago she shared that she had this like a moment of like profound clarity where kind of like all the pieces of the puzzle made more sense to her. So I just wanted to talk to her today about her journey so far, and what tools she's used to put together those pieces of the puzzle for her, and what she's discovered for herself.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so where do I even begin? Okay, so let me preface in saying this, and so I read a book. It's called Ikigai, the Japanese secret to living a long life, and Ikigai is the word or their term for the purpose that gets them up in the morning, or gets people up in the morning. It's what keeps you busy, what keeps you going, and it's that driving force within you. And so I think that our purpose is to understand, or to create this human experience for yourself, right? And that human experience means finding that meaning and providing or creating that purpose. And so I think like when I turned 29, around 29, 30, like Saturn return, I was just like, okay, everything was just, I don't know, all fucked up. I'm sorry. But it was just like, it was crazy. And at that time I had just experienced some issues with my thyroid. I don't know if you know this, Joyce, but I had thyroid issues. I had hyperthyroidism, and then I was dealing a lot with kind of like the seesawing back and forth with my thyroid issues, going hyper, then hypo, and then now it's normal, which is amazing and it's awesome. But it was a really stressful time in my life, and that was just like, a few years ago. So because of that, I realized that I had these dreams that were telling me to find stillness, and I didn't know what that meant, especially during that time. It was really crazy. And then I started to create meaning and try to make I tried to define what stillness meant in my life at that time. So that's when I started to go to yoga, and then yoga turned into learning how to meditate, and I didn't even know how to meditate. And then from that, going to meditation and being a lot more open and listening to my intuition and my inner self, I started to reveal all these things that they just kind of conflicted with a lot of the things that I've grown up with. I'm Catholic, and just these structures, these institutions, and like this domestication that has been just a part of like culture, school, everything is just didn't make sense to me anymore. And after that, I just started to just create my own reality and tried to seek my own truth. And so what Charmaine has offered to me, so the quantum healing hypnosis and also the soul alignment readings, these are tools that I've used to help pretty much continue defining and create that meaning of my life and this human experience, and trying to make sense of that human experience in whatever and however I can understand in this current time. So what's really interesting was, so my grand epiphany was through quantum hypnosis, the healing hypnosis was, I've done a lot of regression meditations that had led me to past lifetimes related to throat stuff. So it's just issues with not being able to speak my truth, things like that, which is interesting that it manifested in this life as like hyperthyroidism or just like some sort of throat issue. And so there was that. And then in my soul alignment reading, and we'll go over that later, one of the lessons that actually came up was things like determination and boldness. And those things that came up in the soul realignment reading actually mirrored a lot of the things that were in my astrological chart. So things like my north node, like if you're looking at the whole astrological chart, not just like my sun sign, moon sign, but everything. And also like Chiron, my Chiron sign, which is Chiron represents your primal wound. And so it's really interesting is that my Chiron is in Gemini, and Gemini is communication. So my wound has to do with communicating, and that's things that have to do with throat. And so it's just like, okay, it's just like taking these kind of pieces from all these different tools, from like the astrological charts, from the soul realignment reading, from the quantum hypnosis, which is, those are experiences that your soul has gone through past lifetimes. It's like, okay, this recurring thing that's been coming up now and then is throat. So, and what's really interesting is my north node is in Aries, and Aries has to do with determination and boldness, which is what was in my realignment. It's about being an individual. It's about speaking your truth. And so my epiphany was, in this lifetime, one of my purposes is to heal the things related to throat by speaking my truth, by singing, by being authentic, being able to communicate and articulate myself and express myself a lot more freely, and to be able to emote myself through my voice. So that was my big epiphany, and it just kind of tied that all together from doing all these different tools.
So you mentioned astrology,
Yeah.
and you mentioned the soul realignment and the quantum healing hypnosis. What other tools have kind of helped you gather pieces of the puzzle?
So so meditation, I think is just it's the best tool to having like in your back pocket, because you're having a conversation with yourself. You're tapping into that knowledge that's already built into you. It's already in you. You already know. But if But if that's, but it's also hard to meditate, and it's hard to kind of just turn things off. And there are other things that I've done too. So I've gotten Reiki done on myself, and that's definitely helped a lot, because I've only seen one Reiki healer, but she it was a really good experience, and I thought she was very intuitive, and she affirmed some things that I was feeling too. I use oracle decks, and I use tarot. And what's really interesting about those is a lot of people feel like, oh, I don't want to know what my future is, but it's just one outcome when the future is infinite. There's so many infinite outcomes that can happen, and you're creating your own reality too. So just because you have one outcome doesn't necessarily mean that's your fate. And what I really love about oracle decks and using tarot is that often we don't, or at least for me, I don't have the words, or I'm not able to articulate myself, and often those cards are able to express for me how I'm feeling. So that's why I really love using those. And then I've also gone to several workshops. I've gone to sound healings, and I think sound healings have been really helpful. Not so much in terms of just kind of figuring out this whole life's purpose or whatever, but just to be present. And I think being present is the beginning of seeking that inner knowledge and tapping into your intuition, things like that. So
I'm curious to know, how did you find these tools, or what kind of led you, or what was your compass to playing or exploring these tools?
Friends. So I think as I started to become more involved, or just more curious, I guess, with the whole spiritual different things, I was doing my own research. Like I did my own research. Okay, what are auras? What are chakras, things like that. And then once I started doing that, a lot of my friends who aren't so, we're not like on that same wavelength necessarily, are really supportive, but at the same time I had to kind of seek people who were like-minded, just so that I can have this conversation with them, and through those conversations, organically, I came across things like, crystals and all these other things too. So like with you, it's just I can remember the conversation we had. We were it was actually with Joey and Eric. We were having lunch over by my work, and then
when we met.
Yeah.
That was such a weird.
Yeah.
For me, that was
when I think that was when you were starting your spiritual journey, and then I was like, okay, and then that just was like maybe triggered it in me too. So and I can definitely, and I've seen your journey as well too, and how you've evolved. But I've gotten a lot of information from you too, because you've started before me, and you're definitely a lot more knowledgeable.
And that's why I'm doing this series, is because I want to encourage people. Like you said, you've been led to these tools out of curiosity. You've kind of followed your curiosity. And you mentioned you found some of these tools through your friends. So that's one reason why I wanted to start this Spotlight series, is to share these stories, because I think we're in a time where people really are starting to question themselves, and really trying to engage in that exploration and excavation of themselves. And the reason why I changed the term from soul seeker into soul explorer is because the term seeking means you're trying to find something that's lost. But we're not lost. We are not, our soul is not something that's separate from us, that is hidden. We are just starting to remember and explore, that aspect of us. So, again, being engaged in the journey, being actively engaged in the journey, being curious, I really want to foster that sense of adventure. And sharing people's stories helps encourage others to do the same. Like you said, you mentioned that you saw me exploring my journey, which kind of helped activate maybe your journey too. And I remember when, I don't even remember what the question was or what the conversation was that prompted us to meet that time, but I felt like I needed to share a lot with you, and I was nervous about sharing.
Really?
Yeah, because I'm like, she's gonna think I'm crazy because there's so much. And at the time, Joey, he's my honey, he wasn't on that same wavelength
Right.
as me, and I didn't have anybody to kind of like pour all this stuff that's been going on in my head onto. And then when you kind of asked to meet and talk about that stuff, I'm like, how much should I pour onto her, or how much should I, you know, like share with her? But that conversation with you, I felt like I don't want to say like I channeled, but I felt like it was like a huge download that I was like transmitting. And so again, that's why I want to share these stories, is because I feel like it'll encourage people to go on that journey and to follow their curiosity, whether they get into the same things that we're into or not. Just knowing that there's other people who are questioning, who are asking the difficult questions, and they're willing to explore the answers. That's the whole purpose of, you know, these conversations that I want to have. And it's not to give people an answer necessarily, it's just to show that there are people actively engaged in the search for answers, and that when we share our stories, again, we all hold pieces of the puzzle as we're trying to figure out our own pieces of the puzzle. When we share our stories, we're all putting our pieces of the puzzle together, and hopefully the more people that do that, the bigger picture of truth will be available to all of us. Yeah. And we all have a unique perspective. That no matter how much I explore, I will never have the same experiences or perspective that is available to you. So if we encourage people to engage in their journey, we'll have such a bigger view of the world, of life, of each other. And yeah, so I'm thankful that you've been part of this journey, and that you're here and you're willing to share your story, and you're still actively engaged in that, you know, curiosity.
Yeah, and I gotta preface that I think these things kind of happen in phases too, because it's not like, oh, I just one day woke up and then I just had this download of everything and I'm like, oh my god, like I understand everything in the world. It's just, you know, it had to happen in, you know, understanding what meditation is, and then auras and chakras, and then gradually getting into other things too. And today, just where I'm at right now, I don't necessarily even believe a lot of stuff still. I'm still trying to understand that for myself and trying to make sense if it's still true to me. So one of the biggest things, like the key things, is discernment. I think is really important, because discernment is different for everyone. And just try to, you still have to be authentic, and if it doesn't feel real for you, if it doesn't resonate or feel right, then it's not right. So
that's what I was going to ask. That was one of my questions. What is like your barometer for truth? I know you have a scientific background in your work, and you know, a lot of the spiritual stuff that people are getting into, the reason why some people are either hesitant to explore it is because, well, that's not scientifically proven, or even, you know, religion gets in there too. So I know you're both Catholic and you have a scientific background. What has been your, you mentioned discernment, but how does that show up for you, or how do you put discernment into practice? What does that look like for you?
So one of the things that really stood out for me when I was understanding what energy or spirituality is actually through energy. So everything has a vibration, and it makes sense to me because now I feel like I could feel those vibrations. So like if you go to a crystal shop, that's one of the things, and I will never forget this, but even my boyfriend Eric, who is not spiritual at all, went to a crystal shop with me, and for him to put citrine on his hand and say, whoa, it's like vibrating, and I was like, yes, it is, it has a vibration. and everything has a vibration. And I was trying to explain this to my friend, very Catholic too, and she said, I don't understand this energy thing. And I said, well, you know, when you pray for someone and your prayers are vibration, love is vibration, and even hate has its own vibration too. It has a low vibration. And so when you're sending your prayers out to someone, when you're sending love out to someone, you're like raising their vibration, because love is a high vibration. And when you're like gossiping, talking shit or whatever, it's like throwing darts at someone. It's like you're bringing down their vibration. So that made complete sense to me. So just like vibration, frequency, energy, really resonated with me, no pun intended. But another thing too is, if you ever see one of those aura photos,
Yes.
there's actually like a plate where you put your hand, and it reads the vibration, the frequency that your body is giving out. So I was like, okay, I mean, it's not gimmicky, I don't think. It's actually reading, you know, the wavelengths that you're giving out. So, and then it's matching it or it's giving you're emitting the frequency, it's reading the frequency, and it's matching it to the wavelength of your aura. So I was like, okay, that's scientific in a sense. So
there's equipment involved.
Yeah, there is. So just kind of things like that. I mean, sure, it's not scientifically proven, but to me, like, it's something that is kind of tangible, right? So
you can feel it.
Yeah, you can feel it. Another thing too, it's like there's been heart studies that have been done on meditation. Just what your heart, how your heart is beating, how it beats during how it responds during meditation. There's also telomeric studies that have been done on meditation as well. So telomeres has been it's like the little ends of DNA, and as you get older they shorten. And so it's been shown that meditation has kind of like extended the life of telomeres. So you could actually see these studies. You can go on PubMed, all like those reputable scientific journals and stuff, and you can see those studies if you really want like the nitty-gritty stuff. So
but I feel like science has its limitations too. It doesn't know everything, and I feel like science is catching up to the spiritual stuff. So I in my perspective, I feel like spirituality is kind of like the, what do you call it? Where they go ahead, the pioneers kind of, and science follows behind to document it or to verify it.
Right.
So I don't think it's the other way around where science uncovers the secrets. I think it's those people who are willing to go beyond the known that break those boundaries and barriers, and then science just kind of follows up behind it and clarifies, maybe.
Validates or clarifies.
Or is like like documents it, you know. And I wanted to ask, how you mentioned earlier, you know, how all these sources from astrology, soul realignment, and quantum healing have kind of come together for you. But, you know, I know there's a lot of people who get readings all the time. Give me information. I want to know all this stuff. But then I don't know if they just don't know how to implement all that information, or if they just don't want to. Because sometimes information is kind of addicting. You know? But how have you found all this information, these pieces of the puzzle? How have you found it useful in your real life? How have you implemented it?
So, I totally agree. It's like after you do your reading, you're like, oh, I gotta look up exactly what this means and like find some sort of meaning. But a lot of that information has come later, and it's like, you know, very synchronistic the way that happens too. It's like, oh, you know, doing my own thing, and all of a sudden I get this idea and remember that it was related to maybe like a dream I had 6 months ago, or, you know, a reading that I did a year ago, things like that. So And it's really interesting because like you said,
Mhm.
we're not like soul seeking. It's not. It's just like an exploration. So it's like when you're going on this exploration, you kind of see these things and whatever. But it's like kind of looking at it at you're kind of looking at it in like a surface level when you go to these readings and things like that.
Yeah.
But when you come back and you look at it again, you see things that you missed before.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's like when I get that information, like I'll kind of understand it on a surface level, even though I think I'm like going deep. But then when it comes back again, then that's when I see it in a different light, and I see like the other cracks and crevices within that. Yeah,
like
that
the
thing.
other levels
Exactly.
that it contains. Yeah, and I think that the important piece is to actually not just read about it or know about it, but to actually live it. Like, like really walking the talk, or just really living it.
Right.
That's the experience of it is where you will like uncover all the layers of whatever information either you read or somebody tells you. So yeah. So you mentioned that in your astrology and in your Akashic record readings and in your quantum healing, the need in this lifetime to address that throat thing. So I know you mentioned that you're doing singing classes, and how are you exploring more of that that piece of you?
Right. So it's really interesting. So I've been attending singing lessons for like the past 5 years or more. Actually, it was my boyfriend. It's his teacher, and he just got it for me as a gift. And it was actually around the time that I had just recently gotten diagnosed with hyperthyroidism, which
did he sign you up because
no,
he
didn't.
It just happened to be.
It just happened to be at the time. So he's been part of that journey as well. And I didn't think too much of it. I didn't really know that it was related to anything at all. It's just like, okay, cool, runs in my family, whatever. But then I think once I started doing the lessons, but then the lessons helped in other things too, like public speaking, being able to take my conference calls, and I work in tech, and being able to be okay with people seeing me virtually, things like that. So kind of and being able to express all this spirituality and all this stuff more freely, and because it's authentic to me, has, I think, helped a lot. And of course, I was taking the medication, I was doing all like the westernized stuff to help, and I was doing everything that I could to clear the energy here, and I was doing also energy work and stuff. I was seeing Yellow Wolf, who's my healer. She was helping me work through this as well. And I think it's just a culmination of everything, culmination of just, medication, working on this myself, all the self-healing, and helped with normalizing it. So I haven't had hyperthyroidism for the past 2 years now. But with singing lessons, it's really been such a big evolution for me in terms of clearing the energy there too, because just recently I had a session, and I've been doing this for a while, and I haven't been able to really sing out of my comfort zone. My comfort zone is kind of just singing technically. And although my teacher says I've got the technique down, but my intention for this year was artistry, but I haven't hit artistry at all yet. I'm just kind of like robotic singing technique, singing by the books. And it wasn't until this past session when I was singing Pocahontas just around the river bend, and I really felt the words. Like in the end of this song, she's saying, "Do I marry Kocoum? Like, are my dreams lost or whatever?" And I got my voice choked up, and I got teary-eyed, and it was like the first time I actually felt those words. And I understand, just that throat and being able to express myself freely and being able to emote how I feel through my voice is just like, there's so much power in that, and there's so much healing, and there's so much more healing that has to be done. It's not like this one session and then all of a sudden, like, I
You're
feel
fixed.
like, yeah, like, fixed. Like, I have to practice it. I have to keep doing it.
Yes.
And I have to remember that my voice is very powerful.
Yes.
And I have
Mhm.
a lot of things to express and
Mhm.
not to be afraid to feel and be able to express that in my voice.
Mhm.
And yeah, there's so much vulnerability
Yeah.
that gets, I guess, transferred,
Mhm.
translated through your voice, and I guess
Yeah.
that's a huge fear of mine, is showing vulnerability through my voice.
Mhm.
And yeah, so
I think-
that was huge.
I think vulnerability is the most powerful connector, though. Like, yes, you can be beautiful and put together, and there, that grabs attention for some, but the most powerful connection, I think, emotionally, and yeah, the most overall powerful connection, I think, is through vulnerability. And again, this is another reason why I want to share this series and share stories, is because we're all trying to figure
Yeah.
things out, and in our moments of vulnerability is also somebody else's, like, source of vulnerability. And if we can share that, and how we've gone through it and pushed through it and found answers for ourselves in that moment of vulnerability, not just in a way of teaching, but in a way of being seen.
Yeah.
I think that's very powerful. So again, I appreciate you talking with me today, and I feel like that's also, a way for you to be authentic and expressing your voice, sharing your voice. Because I think I remember before, when I first invited you to go to Inner Standing with me, I think you had mentioned something like something about feeling alone, or not having people to kind of, like, either go with you or to relate
Yeah.
at that time. So again, it's in sharing our stories, because a lot of times we keep those vulnerable moments hidden, and the more we keep it hidden, then the more people will think, well, it's not okay
Yeah.
to be vulnerable, and so it gives it more power, that fear. But I think the more that we share, the more we can let go of that fear. And if one person does it and another person sees that person doing it, it's like a chain effect, and it helps unlock it for other people.
Right.
So with that said, I wanted to go over, so Katrina has done a couple of soul realignment checks throughout the years. She got her first one, I think, in 2016, and then we did like a spot check a year after, and then for this time, Katrina asked for another one. So I wanted to go over that with you. Is that okay? Okay. Joyce said, vibrational alignment is a beautiful thing. I felt alone for so long, and separation is an illusion. And it definitely is. And again, through sharing our stories, hopefully we can foster that connection. That even if we don't see each other, or, like, spend time, or even talk to each other, just seeing each other, witnessing each other's stories, basically, fosters that connection. So, it transcends time, it transcends space. Like I said, even if we don't spend a lot of time together, or even if we're not physically, together a lot, just knowing your story and what you're going through connects me to you, and connects me with other people too, when I'm able to witness their stories. So yeah, so Katrina had several soul realignments done, and I'm going over her soul profile. And a soul profile reading is where I go through the Akashic records. I ask several questions, a checklist of questions, and then I come up with basically your soul blueprint. And what that soul blueprint is it's a kind of description of the flavor, the particular flavor or maybe particular frequency of the divine that you're meant to share with the world or maybe paint the world with. So it's like a specific, the analogy I use when I explain these readings is your soul profile or your soul blueprint is like a unique shade of color, because you know how color is frequency. So it's a unique shade of color, and in each lifetime you are asked to, in your unique expression and through your own free will, in your actions and in your thoughts, you paint with this specific frequency. So when you are in alignment with your soul profile or your soul blueprint, you are coloring or painting the world with the colors of the divine that you were meant to share. And so there are several aspects of the profile, however, that change as you kind of evolve and become more aware. And so after you've had one soul profile reading, you can get what I call spot checks, and it's kind of like a report card. And it's not a grade per se, but it just gives you it's like a reading on a odometer or a speedometer. Like it gives you an instantaneous picture of where you're at. So Katrina's soul vibration rate, and I've mentioned this I think on a previous live or I think on the IGTV channel, but soul vibration rate, when we talk about soul vibration rate, it refers to dimensions. And I know dimensions sounds a little spacey or sci-fi to some people, but in this context, the soul vibration rate refers to 10 levels of awareness, self-awareness. And so from this framework that I use, I know there's different theories about how many dimensions exist, but in this particular framework, for my reference, I know of 10 dimensional levels. And your soul vibration rate will tell you what your highest level of awareness is, self-awareness. So the lowest dimensional awareness we have in this physical body is the third dimension, and that is when you are aware of yourself as your body, your physical body. Like, I am Charmaine, I am this body. And then the fourth dimensional awareness is when you identify yourself as not just your body, but as your thoughts. And then the fifth dimensional awareness is when you start to become aware of yourself as a spiritual being who is having thoughts in a physical body. And then the sixth dimensional awareness is when you are, so in the fifth dimensional awareness, that's when you're like hungry for spiritual information. So when people first experience their spiritual awakening, a lot of times that is when they start to step into that fifth dimensional awareness. And then, so that period of time is usually when you're hungry for information, you're reading all the books and you're taking all the classes, just hungry to know more of yourself as a spiritual being. And then when you start to go into the sixth dimensional awareness, that is when you start putting all that knowledge into practice. So as you become aware of yourself as a spiritual being, and you're aware that you have control over your reality and you have control over choices, your choices are your power, the sixth dimensional awareness asks you to put that into use. So a lot of times you're not necessarily hungry for more information anymore, you're just wanting to put that into practice. And to fully step into that sixth dimensional awareness, it requires you tapping into your innate abundance. So a lot of times, if you know that you're a powerful spiritual being, and yet you still commit yourself to like a job that you hate, or doing something that you don't love, and you're capable of more, then you're not fully able to tap into that that dimensional awareness. So really being in and exploring that sixth dimensional awareness requires that you have an abundant, you tap into your innate abundance. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're super rich, because I mean, you can be super rich and be a CEO, like maybe like Elon Musk, where I mean, yes, he's rich and he's, you know, aware of his purpose, but his time is tied up. So time is a resource. So
Right.
if yeah, you have all the money in the world, but you don't have the time to do the things that you truly love doing, then you're not really able to tap into that. And so so sixth dimensional awareness is you tapping into that knowledge of yourself as a spiritual being to be who you feel that you truly are. And if we were making a analogy of learning how to play the piano, it would be like really getting good at playing one note. Like, okay, I know I can play this note, I'm going to play this note really well. And then so after you've explored that, the seventh dimensional awareness is when you start to tap into, okay, you know how to be this one specific thing, and you know how to use your abundance to be this one specific thing. Seventh dimensional awareness is now where it's asking you to play the notes, all of the notes on the piano. Like in sixth dimensional awareness, you've been tied to this particular identity maybe that you're really good at playing. But in the seventh dimensional awareness, now it kind of frees you up to explore this spectrum of all these different personalities maybe that you want to be. So you're no longer just woman. You're no longer just, in my case, I'm no longer just nurse. I'm no longer just mother. I'm no longer just woman. I can be crass. I don't have to be this like, oh, you know, like, I can be crass, I can be silly, I can be not healing if I don't feel like healing anybody. You know, I'm not tied to this healer identity. So when you asked me recently, like, what, you know, what's your title? I'm like, I don't really have a title. And that ties back to holding space.
Yeah.
Like, I am a container of all these different things, you know? So I don't want to kind of tie myself down to one identity. I want to be free to explore all these different things.
Right.
So with that said, so with Katrina's update, when she first came to me to get a soul realignment rating, she was at 5.6 in her soul vibration rate. So again, that speaks to 5.6 is when you start
looking at information. Trying to gather
yeah.
everything.
So start exploring and knowing of yourself as a spiritual being, and that's when people start to look for start their journey and start looking for gathering pieces of the puzzle. And then a year later, she had gone up to 6.1. So I don't know what was going on in your life at the time. I think you became a consultant, or like where you were working from home.
Oh yeah.
At the time. So I think that's a piece of you tapping into your abundance, like that freed up your time.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And then now you're at 7.5. So I don't know, looking back, or, you know, looking at your situation now, do you feel that kind of like speaks to your experience now?
I would say so, because in the past year what had happened was, okay, I finished, I was doing alchemical healing, and I actually finished those sessions, and so now it's actually, like, people have been coming to me, trying to, who've been wanting some energy work done, so I've been doing that, and it's just, that has opened up so many more opportunities for me too. So with doing the alchemical healing, I've also been doing Krandarismo classes as well, and that's more traditional type of healing. It's a Mexican traditional healing modality, and then from that, it's opened me up to Filipino healers, and looking into that and wanting to go to the Philippines and learn more about that as well. So it's just, so I think alchemical healing, doing that was what activated everything else. And it's like, okay, I was good at this one thing, so let's see what else is out there.
So it opens the doors.
Exactly.
And just to go back to the soul vibration rate, just because what the soul vibration rate speaks to is your highest awareness. And an analogy that just came to me for that is like you going, like, there's a tall building, right? So all the dimensional levels already exist up to the 10th floor maybe. And So your soul vibration rate is the highest floor that your elevator has gone to. And so that is the highest spot that you can kind of step out. You know, you can get off at that floor and kind of like, look, you can see all the levels down, and that's the highest awareness that you have. But in your actual real life, you can still go down to the third floor and be there, you know, like by choice. So you're still able to explore all these levels. And but yeah, so the soul vibration rate just speaks to your highest awareness of yourself.
Right.
Yeah. And the other part that I updated for Katrina's reading is her higher self connection. So higher self connection, it's just a number, a percentage number that speaks to how connected you are with your higher self, and that fluctuates. That's a number that fluctuates as well. And so subconsciously, Katrina has fluctuated with her connection, and also consciously, her numbers also fluctuated. Can you speak to that, or do you think that's an accurate reflection of where you're at?
I would say so. I think that mainly just recently, I've been a lot more linear. So, in terms of subconscious, the subconscious also dreaming, right?
Yeah.
So I haven't been sleeping very well, things like that. A lot of things related to my linear life, like with work. I was very stressed out because of things that were going on in my job. I wasn't sure where I was going, things like that. But now that I know that there's clarity around that and there's direction, I've felt a lot more connected, but not nearly as connected that I was before. Yeah.
For me too, just reflect, because when I did your update, I'm like, oh, let me update mine too. And my subconscious connection has gone down. I used to do dream journaling a lot, but I haven't.
Yeah.
So my subconscious connection with my higher self has gone down. So,
Right.
and it's not a set number.
Yeah.
It fluctuates.
Yeah, I used to do that too, actually. I used to be really good about journaling my dreams, but I'm like, it's okay.
Yeah.
And then I'll just like whatever. Or even just like everything that was so synchronistic, I would write down
Yeah.
as I refer to. I was like, okay, well that was cool.
Yeah.
You know, things like that. So I just haven't been on top of things like that. But, yeah.
And then the other piece of her soul profile update is the white and blue lights. So white and blue lights is, I personally don't see them, but I know some people who do. But they are, I like to refer to them as prayer or wish fairies, and they're kind of like these, you know those people outside Home Depot, they wait around for a job, and so when somebody comes by with a job, they just kind of like, you know, like, hey, you know, I'll go with you. So I like to think of them kind of like that, because they're like these energetic things that are waiting for you to put out an intention. So if you have a job for them, they'll all come like flocking to you. Like the more intention that you put out into the world and into your reality, the more that you attract. So if you're putting out a lot of intention, and they don't discriminate whether your intention is aligned to your highest good or not, they're just like, oh, she got a job for me? Okay, I'm there. So it just speaks to how much a person is putting out their intention into the world. So her white and blue lights has gone up over time. She started out with 27 white lights, and the maximum you can have is 30. And then with her following the update a year after, she had 30 white lights, which is the max, and then she accumulated a blue light, which is like a bigger carrying capacity light. And then so with this update, another year after that, she has 3 blue lights now. So that, again, is a reflection of how much intention you've been putting out into the world. And do you feel like that's an accurate reflection of the last year?
Yeah, I would say so. This past year has been very, there's a lot of things that had happened this past year. I did one-on-one sessions with Yellow Wolf, and through those sessions, I've integrated a lot of things that, for instance, I just integrated so much of this, of things that I wanted to do, and I ended up doing it. So for instance, the blog was something that I birthed at the sessions I was doing with her. And in March, it was just like, I don't even know what got into me, but I just was like, okay, I'm going to do this blog, and everything just transpired in a week. So I had like 10 posts and like all this stuff. I was putting everything together, but it just, everything just manifested so quickly. So, I did, like, you know, I just kind of put the energy out there, like, I'm going to do this, like, I'm going to write a blog, and then it just, like, was, like, divine intervention, and I just did it, and so, there's definitely that, and then other things, too, like, for instance, I've just been a lot more, thankful, expressing a lot more gratitude, so I think a lot of my white bubbles, or white spheres, my white lights have been just kind of a lot of intentions about abundance. And so I think that's a huge thing, and I'm really blessed this past year for just the opportunities that have come into my life.
So Katrina, her divine gift is a divine power, and so your energy center, that's part of the soul profile reading. The 7th energy center, which is her primary energy center, is of divine power. And people who have that as their primary energy center, they're really good manifestors. So I think that reflects there. And also the higher up in vibration that you go with your soul vibration rate, the faster and more powerfully you manifest. So like you mentioned, you know, your blog happened really quickly, you know. So I think all of that is coming together for you. So you're like, it is easier. No, I don't want to say easier. It shows up quicker and more powerfully.
And it's also in alignment with my authentic self too. So I mean, my blog is about wellness. It's about my spiritual journey, my everything journey. So so definitely aligns with this as well.
And then spirit guides. So from this framework of the readings that I do, my understanding is that we have 6 maximum spirit guides that go through us with life. But in the readings that I've been doing lately, as people go up higher in their soul vibration rate, I've noticed that people are having 10 spirit guides. So Katrina's came up as 10, and then mine also came up as 10, and then there were a couple other people who were coming up as 10. And then when I asked, I'm like, why is it 10? I thought it's only 6. And what I got was that, one, as you reach a certain point in dimensional awareness, I think it's 7.3, you have this greater sense of awareness that transcends just you as a person. Like your awareness starts to seep into the community, and so the things that you do is kind of like affects people on a larger scale. So you gain 3 additional guides. And they aren't necessarily guides that are with you in your day-to-day life. They are more removed. They're kind of like overseeing your higher dimensional aspects, I guess. And so that's why there's 10. And also, we are also going through like a powerful time. We're going through a powerful shift. And my understanding is that because we're going through this powerful shift, we are getting more support. So even if you're not aware of your support squad, your crew, they are there. And so in these times of change, and where we're being powerfully asked to step into our power and our being, as we're doing that, we're also getting more support. So you got 10. And the life lessons. So life lessons are the life lessons that our soul chooses when we incarnate into each life. We typically pick a theme that we want to experience in this lifetime, and just because you pick a theme doesn't mean you're going to get all the good experiences from that theme. You know, you experience the whole spectrum of it. And Katrina's life lessons were determination. That was your primary one. And then the secondary one was boldness. And the last year, when I did Katrina's update, it said that her life lesson of determination was at 90%. And when I was doing these readings, it's my understanding that once you reach 100%, it doesn't mean that you're going to die. It doesn't mean either that you can't die until you reach 100%. When I learned these readings, I understood that it's just once you complete a lesson, it just kind of drops off.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you might not have that much interest in exploring it, but it just kind of drops off. So I'm curious to know, because in her update, her primary life lesson, determination, is completed. So have you noticed any? Let's see. Okay, let's. Okay, sorry, this is stuck up. My bad. Oopsie. Okay, all right. So, have you noticed any change, maybe, in your feelings, or?
So one of the key words that I'm referring to my old, or
Mhm.
the one from last year, is personal development. So,
Mhm.
I would say that personal development is kind of just a forever life
Yeah.
lesson. I'm always going to be developing.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay. Oh, you know what? Light
Mhm.
keeps falling. We only have a minute and 30 left.
Oh.
So I'm going to end this session and then I'm going to reconnect again.
Okay.
That's why it's telling
Oh,
us.
okay.
Mm. Thanks. Okay. Okay. So, my iPad kept falling and it's so funny. Like, I kept putting it up. And then the last time it fell, I checked and it said we only had like a minute and 30 seconds left because I guess there's a time limit. So I guess somebody was trying to tell us, hey, you need to stop it and like restart it.
Right.
So, thank you. Ah! Okay, I don't know. Maybe we just need to end the session completely. But I just wanted to just kind of like finish this up with Katrina and not leave things hanging. But yeah, it's getting kind of windy.
Yeah. We're almost
Okay.
done here. Okay.
Maybe Malaya wants boba. That's
Yeah.
why. Ah! Oh my god!
Let's see.
What is going on? Okay. Okay. Yeah, somebody wants us to stop writing. Or somebody just wants boba. I don't know. Okay, I think we're good.
Okay.
I don't know. We'll see.
Okay. So we were talking about my primary life lesson, which is
Yeah.
determination, and how if I feel like it's 100%.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it's interesting because I felt like starting this whole spiritual journey. I'm sorry, just laughing at Joyce's comment.
I know. Maybe it's a good excuse to get a new one.
Yeah, so when starting this whole spiritual just understanding of this knowledge, you just try to learn as much as you can from books, from everything, right?
Yeah.
From all the resources that are online, this and that, whatever. But then at some point, I had to figure out what makes sense to me, what's true to me, and it wasn't. I think it's funny when I turned 30. That was when, and at 30, my 30th birthday, or just the whole year of 30, was like the best year of my life, because that was the first time I ever felt I really, really knew myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in terms of my primary lesson, yes, by age 30, I felt like I really was just comfortable with myself and knowing who I am and what I like and what I what I like to do, what I love, and I think that's huge, and especially because going in my 20s and all that, I just didn't know. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what my purpose was, and maybe I still don't know what my purpose is, but I'm okay with that, and that's all part of the personal development and the determination that I just felt like, okay, I had to know everything. And I think when you're doing all of this like information gathering, you just realize that, you know, sometimes it's okay to not even know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think that's also part of the reason why maybe it may have dropped off too.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bumblebee.
Oh,
Hi.
You bringing a message?
Hey, friend. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which is really interesting. Sorry. Side note: bees have been my messengers lately. All day yesterday. Like literally, this bee just kind of was like dug itself in my watch.
Oh, really?
And I was walking
like
along.
in there?
Yeah, and I was walking along with the bee next to me, which is really interesting because bees I think it has to do with being busy, and actually
working, productive.
Yeah, and community, which relates to my second lesson, which is boldness. So I think boldness has a lot to do. I don't know if you want to talk about my update for that.
So last year, her boldness was at 60% completion, and now it's at 80% completion. And the life areas in which it's currently showing up in right now is your physical surroundings, your family, your profession, your spiritual development. Oh my gosh. Okay, almost done. Jeez, almost done. Okay. Okay. So, spiritual development and in your primary relationship.
Oh, that sounds kind of kinky.
Are you becoming more bold?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so boldness, yes, and this
sorry.
was
Oh my gosh! Hold
is
on.
there any way, to kind of like prop it up like that.
Okay, wait. Yeah, I think it's time for for an upgrade of some kind. Oh, okay, hold on. Technical difficulties here. Hold on. Okay, there.
Okay.
Okay, hold on. Oh my god! I don't even know. I don't know. Oh, okay. I think we need Eric.
Yeah. Seriously.
Eric, can you come back? The cameraman. Okay. Real quick.
Okay.
Tell me. No,
Okay. So with boldness, pertaining to so my North Node, which is why I was kind of tapping back into the tools of looking into astrology and the astrological chart and relating things to that. So my North Node, which is kind of the direction that your life that it's going, is in Aries, and Aries has to do with individuality and being able to be bold, and I think that has a lot to do with the secondary lesson that I'm going through right now, is just kind of putting myself out there.
Yeah, I think it really speaks to that.
And it's scary. It's super scary to put myself out there. In fact, I was really fearful of putting my blog out and being afraid of judgment, for one thing, but just also well, I guess, but judgment is that thing.
Okay, we're almost done. I swear.
Yeah.
Promise. Whoever's trying to knock this down, we're almost done. Can we finish? Hold on.
There you go.
Let me hug it. Hold on.
I just needed love.
I don't know. Hang on. Wait. Okay.
And so boldness too. So I just recently got I'm on a new team now, and there's potential for me to be a lot more customer facing, things like that. And I'm not,
I'm just gonna hold it. I'm just gonna hold it. Okay, there.
So my new role, I don't have that much experience, and it requires me to be bold and being able to speak in front of executives, and I've attended those meetings too. But to actually be in front of these new people and being comfortable and being able to articulate myself and be eloquent in my speech and things like that, that is the lesson definitely I'm trying to learn. And today, in what was I saying? Oh, so that's definitely the lesson that I'm trying to get through right now. And yeah, and it's funny, family too. It's like trying to penetrate through my family, telling them, helping them understand me better and why I do what I do, and why I feel passionate about my blog and things like that. So, and in doing that, helping just the family dynamic, that for them understanding me and where I'm coming from, and being able to tell them and speak my truth. I think that's a huge part of adulting. Let's see.
Just being.
Yeah, physical surroundings. I'll have to sit with that one. I don't really know yet. So family, profession, spiritual development, boldness. Yeah. So spiritual development, definitely. That has to do with my blog, my Instagram, doing this, talking about this, and being okay with who's gonna see this. Like even if it's my coworkers or whoever is gonna see this. So it's for them to see this. For them, it's them seeing potentially like a new side of me, but it's always been my authentic me. And so it's
time for it to come out.
It's time for it to come out. And for primary relationship, which is really interesting, I think the boldness has to do a lot with the projects that Eric and I are doing. It's requiring me to be out there too, because we're doing a lot of music together. We're doing a lot of video production and all that stuff, and these are projects that I'm really excited about, and it's really brought us together. And
I think he's calling you out.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's and it's something that I think this is a lesson we're sharing together.
Yes.
Yeah, the boldness. He's definitely drawing that out of me too. So yeah.
And even just watching you guys earlier, I think that's cool that you guys have this, like, your skills kind of like complement each other in terms of you moving forward with what you guys are passionate about. So, and you guys learning these things together. I think that's cool that you guys are able to share in that experience.
Yeah.
And the reason why.
Yeah, I can't wait either. It's really exciting. Sorry, selfless plug, not for me, but for Eric. New music 50 out, so look out for that. Come to his shows. Okay.
And he's also a good cameraman and lighting man. So if you guys need a lighting person, camera guy, Eric's your man.
And also production stuff too. If you need someone to mix your music, if you need beats, let Eric know.
So the reason why I brought up too is whether, with the determination of being 100% completed, it's because my primary lesson too was 100%. And I've noticed that in this, even just like the last like month and a half.
Do you mind sharing what? I'm just
curious. My primary lesson is self-assurance. So for most of my life, I've always had doubt. I've always doubted myself. Like, even if I know like something is really good, I'm always like, oh, I don't know if people are gonna like it, or I don't know, even though I feel good about it. So that's always been a theme for me that I've had to push through. And just this last month and a half, I've felt this like my heart has been filling up with so much inspiration, and I've just been like just letting these ideas come out. Like I'm not even like hesitating, like okay, this idea popped up, I'm gonna go for it. And I've also been in my relationship with Joey, there's been a lot of like tension in the ways that me trying to assert myself. So I don't know if any of you guys know Joey, my honey, but he's very opinionated and very
Is he?
He's a Taurus.
Okay. Yeah.
Very stubborn. But so in our relationship together, over time, I've had to find confidence in my voice and like really learn how to speak up for what's important to me, and ask for what's important to me. So we've gone through a lot of growth, and in terms of he's sleeping, so I get to talk about him. So so the last year I've been speaking up a lot more. Like I've been voicing out what my non-negotiable needs were, and that's scary. You know, that's really scary, because a lot of times people don't speak up for themselves because they're afraid to lose people who are close to them. But you know, I found that in myself to speak up, and so in me speaking up, he's been meeting me. You know, like I've told him what I need, and I'm so glad that he's meeting me where I'm choosing to be. So I've been telling him, okay, this is where I want to be. This is what I need to be where I want to be. Are you going to meet me there? If you're not going to meet me there, you know, like, then, you know, like, we might have to go our separate ways. But because this is really important to me. So he has really chosen to powerfully meet me, which I'm so grateful and honored that he's choosing to rise up, because I know it's hard for him. I don't know if you know Tauruses, like they like to stay comfortable where they're at. So it's in the ways that Eric is calling you out with boldness. I feel like by me following what my heart is calling me to do, it kind of calls Joey out to step up to his fullest potential too. But in terms of my primary lesson completing, like I didn't know that as I was going through all this stuff. I only checked my soul profile when I did yours, because I'm like, oh, okay, might as well check mine. But yeah, so I was like, oh, 100%. And I've been noticing a difference in my feeling, I guess, in the last month and a half. Like I feel so empowered to just go ahead with all these ideas, whereas before I would like sit with these ideas and just be like, oh, you know, like it's a weight. When I have an idea, it's more of like a weight, because I'm holding on to it and not allowing it to come out, because I'm either scared or I just feel like it's not valuable to others. But this last month and a half, it's just like, ooh, I have an idea. Okay, let me see what I can do with it. Like I've been really motivated to follow through with all these ideas, and I don't have that doubt that I used to have. So, I mean, until I saw that I was 100%, like, oh, that kind of makes sense, because now this lesson of self-assurance isn't important for me anymore, I guess, to experience. And so I don't have that doubt anymore, because I already know, I've already completed that experience of dealing with that doubt and truly finding my own empowerment, or my self-assurance. But my secondary life lesson is approval. So I'm almost done with that, but I do feel like, even though I'm putting out these ideas and I'm confident in sharing them, there's still an aspect of me like, well, who's gonna want it? But I'm still gonna put it out, but there's still like, well, you know, I still have a need for approval, and also a health issue, like so, you know, I've been overweight most of my life, and then again, the societal projection that if you're overweight, you're not healthy. So since gaining weight, I've just been going off of how I feel. Like, okay, I feel good. I'm not working out a lot, and honestly, I'm not eating quote unquote healthy, but I feel good. You know, like I don't have that judgment that I used to have, and so when my heart, I've been having like palpitations recently, and when I checked it, it's like the most benign kind of palpitation. And I had lab work done, I went to the doctor, I had everything checked out, and everything looks really good. So I think I don't know if I'm making excuses for myself, but honestly, I really think that that heart thing happened for me to check and validate what I've been feeling all along, that I am healthy, and so kind of like getting the approval of the medical field that you are healthy, like all these numbers that they go by to measure your health, you're meeting all of them. So that's another sense of approval that I guess I'm kind of going through or experiencing right now. So yeah, that's why I was curious to see how you felt having that that life lesson completed.
Yeah, and this kind of just as one more thing is, so the primary relationship part with the boldness, which is really, it just popped into my mind when you were talking about Joey and how he's willing to meet you where you want to be, right?
Yeah.
What Eric told me recently that got me really, really emotional was we were recording, and I was actually recording my own vocals, and he's like, I guess I was just embarrassed, or I was like, I just wasn't comfortable with the situation because it's showing that vulnerability. I mean, I always cry to Eric, like I'm always crying basically, but like I said, I wasn't very comfortable showing that in my voice and being vulnerable in that way. And then he was like, "Don't worry, I'm your number one fan."
Aww.
Yeah, and then of course like I cried like a little baby when he said that. But knowing that he's there to support my boldness is like huge.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's I think that's really crucial to have that support.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I know in your readings too, and even in the questions that you've asked me before, there's this lingering theme of a message that you either need to share or want to share. Have any of the pieces of the puzzle kind of helped you figure out what that message is?
Yeah, actually it was the quantum healing session. That's what I got a message, or I got a definition of the message or what that message was, but I can't remember it off the top of my head right now, but it was really powerful. It had something, it was like I do remember because I'm reminded of it. Okay, so my soul group is Blueprint Changer, and when I got that, I didn't know what it meant at all, but just to get background of who I am and what my experiences are is my background's in genetics, and I have a degree in genetics, and my message was that it's like, so in order for evolution to occur, there has to be some sort of mutation. A mutation occurs. Like for instance, like let's say you have like a species of an animal and they live in a really wet environment, and the animals are not surviving, and the only way for them to survive is to have fins or a tail or whatever, but they don't have any. So one of the animals has a mutation and grows a tail, and this is just like, really far-fetched example, but so that the animal survives, or maybe another animal also gets the mutation, survives, and they're male, female, they reproduce, and then they have offspring with tails. So my point is that, so in order for humanity to have this higher consciousness and to shift in higher levels of consciousness and awareness, is to create mutation, and the mutation has your genes, it's a blueprint, and so so mutation doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing, or it could be a good thing too, but it's some sort of kind of like a blip that needs to happen to change a series of everything, of just in order for human consciousness to evolve. So that is the message that I got, and that's what it relates. And it was through quantum healing for me to understand that soul group. Yeah, the meaning of that soul group, of that message. Okay. So, yeah.
And how do you feel like you are working towards sharing that message?
So I don't think that it's me, like it's one person who is the blueprint changer, who is just gonna create this mutation, and then all of a sudden this evolution is gonna happen. But I mean, I'm sure there are other blueprint changers in the world that are kind of they're doing their own thing to change the world in some type of way. But or everyone who is love and light is changing the world in some type of way. But maybe the blueprint changer is the one who recognizes that that's like that shifting that's happened and can explain that. So yeah.
And that, again, that's another reason why I wanted you to join me today, is to kind of like help. I think, again, with everybody witnessing each other's journey, we can affect change in that way, because witnessing an energy again transcends time and space. The words that you speak, even just your energy right now, people just seeing you, it emits we're always transmitting messages. Like, information is energy. And so that's why I wanted to bring you on today, is to help you to like speak to that message, or at least help you share that message. It might not be in a concise way where you're actually spelling out the message, but just you are the message. You know, just you being who you are, that is the message.
Right.
So that's why I wanted you to share your story and get you on here and help you share the message and I really appreciate, again, you being here today and you being here this whole time, just holding space, literally, with me this whole time. So moving forward, you mentioned that you have all these projects. What is coming up for you?
So a lot of things are coming up for me. There's potentially some music coming up that I'm going to be recording. That's not in the immediate future. It's just a work in progress, and so far it's like a personal project. There's also the blog, working on that still. I'm going to be posting up an interview that I just did with Charmaine earlier, so look out for that. And I'm actually going to be doing a lot different formats for the blog too. So I'm not just going to be writing. I'm also going to be doing video logs and also kind of like podcast type of blogging too. So there's some audio on my blog that you can check out now. And one of the major things for me, one of my biggest passions is yoga, and so that's a personal journey for me as well. So that's just every day, yoga jam every day. That's a huge thing. So that in itself it's a physical journey that I've been going on, and I might even do teacher training for that too. So I'm exploring the idea of possibly doing my training for yoga. We'll see how it goes.
Well, I mean, like I said, you create your own reality, and you have all these options available to you, and your power. You're made to use your power of choice. Right. So I'm glad that you're really like going with it and exploring all these avenues to express yourself and be yourself. So side note, I'm also doing energy work. So that's if anyone's interested in alchemical healing, or if need be like limpias or anything like that, I'm still doing them. I need to try it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you for everybody who's joined us. If you weren't able to catch the whole conversation, I don't know if we'll edit out the falling iPad. I think we'll keep it in. That was fun. But I'll post the recordings up on YouTube and put up a link. But this is a series that I'm hoping to continue. Again, I want to share people's stories, and just for the simple reason of showing people that they're not alone. I know this soul journey stuff can feel alienating. Is that the right way to say it? It can feel alienating at times. So we won't edit it, Joyce, just for you. Your comments. I don't know if the comments will show up, but yeah, Darn it, though. My iPad's not broken yet. The case is broken, but... But yeah, so, so this... I'm hoping this will be an ongoing series. I have several people lined up, and, you know, like, the more that I, like, check in with myself and be like, oh, whose stories do I want to share? It's helping me realize how many people have been, like, kind of crucial to my journey, and I'm a very private person. Like, I don't do, like, girls' night out. You know, I don't have, like, a large crew of friends. So I've always thought, like, I don't really have friends. But now that I'm, like, looking, you know, with this project, reflecting on it, I realized how many people have really, like I said, this journey has really connected me with my tribe. And there are a lot of people that, even if I don't see them a lot, like, I feel deep connections to. So, so yeah, I'm hoping to share their stories, because their stories have helped me in my own story. So I'm just hoping to start a chain reaction and allow people to be okay with their own stories, and being okay with being seen and being vulnerable, because, again, that vulnerability, the questions that we have, not knowing, that's really what connects us all. So again, thank you for joining. I will post the recording. Hi, Marcy. I'll post the recording up sometime soon once I process it. I won't edit it. But yeah, thank you again for joining, and I will see you guys soon. So thank you, Katrina.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening, tuning in, and good luck with the series.
Yeah, thank you. And check out her blog, because there's so much information there about her own journey and her tools and the people who've affected her journey too. So there's so much, it builds on each other.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's expansive.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you guys, and good night. We're gonna go get boba.
Bye.
Bye.